I didn't doubt it for a moment. Steve Bannon came out and said that 35 senior Trump allies had been targeted by the feds. And a lot of people said, he's exaggerating. You can't trust Steve Bannon. Obviously, people on the left, obviously people in his audience believed him, but there were a lot of skeptics. Harmeet Dillon, a lawyer, came out and said, can confirm. And right then I'm just like, this is happening. This is Joe Biden weaponizing the DOJ to go after his political rivals in an unprecedented way. This is Joe Biden and the DOJ taking a sledgehammer to the fabric of this country. Now, of course, their argument, and the argument of those on the left, is Donald Trump took a sledgehammer to the country on January 6th. I'm sorry. That's just not the case. Maybe you can call it a ball-peen hammer. January 6th was not a good thing. A bunch of angry Trump supporters were protesting, began rioting, and that was about it. No real plans, seemingly aimless, and the majority of people who went in bumbled in confused. The people who were violent on the outside of the Capitol building were fighting with cops. Arrest them. Charge them. I get it. It's bad stuff. We don't want that. But the people who walked in confused, one guy got acquitted because the cops waved him in, and there's video of it. So you want to say that was taking a sledgehammer to this country? No, I'm sorry. That's just not the case. The reality here is that there is a faction of people who are paying attention, who understand that while things like January 6th are bad, we can move past those things. We can say, hey, we should criminally charge those who are violent and those who knowingly trespassed, knowingly, like climbing over barriers and broken glass, they can get a slap on the wrist. I mean, what do you get charged for trespassing? You get, community service or something? You shouldn't have done it. And a lot of people just walked in confused. But because of January 6th, they are justifying weaponizing law enforcement to target political rivals. This, I kind of don't want to say it, but this is like precursor stuff to the end of empire, to the end of the republic, when the government has split down the middle and one side is saying, we have the authority to crush you, to stop you from winning an election. And that's where we're going. Tucker Carlson obtains subpoenas from Biden's DOJ to Trump allies demanding personal information. It shocks the conscience of everyone who sees it. But the number of people who see it is very small because it's not covered by the media. True story. Tucker Carlson revealed on Monday night that his Fox News show obtained subpoenas that were sent from Biden's Department of Justice to Trump allies and supporters seeking personal communications. It's worse than you think. Just hear it. It shocks the conscience, Carlson said. But the number of people, so we know that quote. He goes on to mention, and it's not just happening to Amy Kremer. Kremer was the founder of Women for Trump and was the chairman of the Tea Party Express. This show has obtained a subpoena from Merrick Garland's DOJ, issued in the past week, and what it demands is both unlawful and without precedent in American history. The subpoena, Carlson said, claims to be investigating any claim that the vice president and or the president of the Senate had the authority to reject or choose not to count presidential electors. Now, keep in mind that any claim you make as an American citizen about electors, any claim you make about American politics, period, is protected explicitly under the First Amendment. It's our core freedom. It's why we live here. It's why we're proud to be Americans. It's why so many American servicemen died protecting our country. Those are the freedoms they fought to preserve. In fact, he went on to say, it is because we have free speech that when Democrats attempted to reject the electors slated to vote for Donald Trump in the Electoral College, they were not subpoenaed by the incoming administration's Department of Justice, and their personal communications were not demanded as part of the investigation. Fascinating. The Democrats screamed in 2016. They screamed in 2015, to be honest, and in 2017. They said that the election was not free and fair. They claimed Russian actors and hackers had stolen the election. Nothing happened. Donald Trump and his allies said similar things, and now they are being targeted in extreme ways. He says that's why nobody was prosecuted leading Democrats in 2016 when they sought to reject the electors for Trump, and they did. None of those people, including Kamala Harris, is now in jail. But right now, according to the subpoena that we have obtained from Merrick Garland's DOJ is demanding all communications from the following people on this topic. It's amazing. What is this? On what grounds are you demanding my private communications with people? They never say. But included in this precedent-breaking sweep of political opponents of the Biden White House would be former White House advisor Bernie Kerik, who was the former police commissioner of New York, Boris Epshteyn, who is the current attorney for Donald Trump. At no time in American history has it been okay to grab the personal communications of someone's lawyer, because those are privileged. Not anymore, he said. I got to pause there, guys. I don't know if people understand the gravity of the situation. I don't think people understand. Certainly those on the left would downplay it. They have been going after lawyers. You have legal privilege in this country. When you're accused of a crime or in just seeking advice for any reason from a lawyer, those communications are privileged, because if you do not have the ability to effectively defend yourself or mount legal challenges, then there is no justice. Going after lawyers? Man, I don't know what to say, really. I really don't know what to say. I guess the idea is the system is completely fractured. That's it. There is no justice system. There is only Joe Biden and the Democrats willing to use whatever force necessary to stop their political rivals. That's it. That's what's happening. Now, let me just stress, when they feign legal authority to do something, which they don't have, going after people's lawyers, you realize they're just launching attacks. I mean, in my view, them going to somebody like Bannon and arresting him would be no different than a random guy walking to you up on the street and putting you in cuffs, because they do not have they'll claim it. And that's always going to be the case. This is what Matt Taibbi said. And I agree with him. I said we were getting to this point. Matt Taibbi wrote that eventually you get to the point, you get to the arrest that man phase. We're here. Now I wonder, will it be civil war or will it be revolution? Because this is the point. Matt Taibbi talks about that point when two vehicles full speed towards a police station. They both jump out. They yell to the police captain or chief, arrest that man, at each other. At each other. And who does the cop arrest? Well, right now, Joe Biden and his DOJ and Merrick Garland have the authority, and their zealots are just doing whatever it is they're told. But it is masquerading as legal authority, because the reality is it's gone. I mean, that's it. It's gone. I can't look at this and think anything else. Matt Morgan, Justin Clark, Kenneth Chesborough, Mike Roman, RNC official Joshua Finley, Trump attorney John Eastman, Jenna Ellis, Joe DiGenova, James Trupis, Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, Victoria Tensing, Cleta Mitchell, Bruce Marks. We could go on and on and on. Lawyers are being targeted. Trump attorneys John Eastman, Jenna Ellis, Joe DiGenova, James Trupis, Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell. Unprecedented. When you speak with your lawyer, that communication is privileged, and now they're attempting to seize it. This is crazy stuff, man. Banana Republic, yeah, I think we're well beyond that. I've been saying for a while civil war is coming, and maybe it's not. Maybe it's revolution, and I'll explain. Imagine the year is 1861. Southern states secede from the Union. Union troops march into those states and arrest their leaders. New leaders are appointed and say, okay, well, there's no secession anymore. There would not be a civil war. Civil war happens when factions fight each other over control of one government. In the American Civil War, 1861 to 1865, you had a secession from the Union. The South was trying to form its own. Well, it's trying to form a confederacy. In fact, they did. The North said that was illegal and you can't do that, so they fought. That's why there was a civil war. A revolution would be, well, I suppose you could argue there's similarities to the American Revolution and the Southern secession. In the American Revolution, the colonies tried to secede from the crown, and they did, and they succeeded. But a civil war typically is when two factions within one country fight for control of that country. And revolutions, like I witnessed in Egypt, are when the government is just removed and a new government is put in place. Well, we now have complete violations of the norms of our legal system. Let's read a little bit more. The DOJ is now, this is what Carlson said, going after former White House official Stephen Miller, a frequent guest on this show. Why? Well, it could be because Stephen Miller went on this network and said, quote, if we win these cases in the courts, then we can direct the alternate slate of electors are certified. In other words, he didn't call for insurrection or violence or a coup. He called for alternate electors to be seated if the court ordered them to be seated. In other words, he was following the constitutionally prescribed process post-election. He's doing what he's supposed to do. He was following the rules. So let me break it down for you. An election happened in 2016, and the Democrats lost their minds. They claimed, wrongfully, that Russia hacked the election. There was an investigation of Trump. Trump was impeached, ultimately, over this nonsense. And it turned out to be bogus. Well, he ultimately got impeached on the Ukraine thing and then the January 6th thing, but it's all related. Ultimately, he was impeached by these people. The Russia stuff was nonsense. Another election was had. Donald Trump loses. Joe Biden wins. Donald Trump's people then claim similarly to what the Democrats claimed. They tried to use a legal process, same as the Democrats tried to use. In response, the Democrats have started targeting anybody who sought to use the legal process to challenge the election. That's it. Anybody who thought they could. These are not people who stormed the gates on January 6th. These are people who said, I would like a judge to review this. A legal challenge is the way to do things, in my opinion. Same goes for the Democrats as it does for Republicans. If you win in the courts, sure, there may be questions about the biases of the judges and the members of the court. But at the very least, you avoid violence. What we ended up getting here now is that the people who said we want to have a legal process are being targeted by the DOJ, having phones seized. Yeah, I'm sorry. If there is no legal remedy for your grievances, be it there is no redress of grievances, then what do you think happens next? Okay, it could be civil war. Classic in the classic sense, not the American sense, in that in one country, factions are fighting all over the place. It could be revolution. One faction using the power of government crushes its opponents and wipes them out. We've seen it long before. You know, I remember reading about the Bolshevik Revolution. Russia, the Soviet Union, etc. It's funny. The Tsar and his family were removed, and they were told, don't worry. Don't worry. And then a short time later, they walked in and executed the entire family. You're too dangerous to be left alive. Now, I don't know if that's where we're at, but we certainly have the DOJ going after the former administration and all of its allies. I mean, top people. What happens next? They're already trying to lock up Steve Bannon. Look, civil war only happens when people fight back. So that there may not be one, and I hope there isn't. I hope that come November, 56 days out, is that where we're at? I hope that people just win back power legitimately, and then there's a legal battle, a legislative battle. That's the best way things should go. And the people who push too hard calm down, everybody chills. Hopefully that's the case. I don't see conservatives and people on the right fighting physically. I don't. Even with January 6th, it's a riot. It wasn't like BLM, it wasn't like Antifa. Those people would fight. I think, hopefully, the people of America wake up, vote out this corruption, and then something can actually happen. But I don't know. In the American Civil War, you had a caning, someone brutally beaten in Congress, and the North said that this man was brutally beaten and left permanently injured, and the South said, "Oh no, he wasn't. Oh, you're exaggerating. It wasn't that bad." And official stories are that it was a brutal beating that left the dude with permanent injuries. That's the story. I suppose if you're from the South, you'd argue that they were exaggerating and he bopped him over once or twice with the cane. I can imagine the dude was brutally beaten. I mean, a civil war was bubbling up. We're not quite there. And times they're different. Violence is bad. But I wonder if this is just going to be ignored by the general public because the media is basically on the side of Democrats and the Uniparty. Or if regular people will get scared. Because this is what we heard, James Lindsay on Timcast IRL said he was on a plane. And a woman said that she wasn't a fan of Trump, but the FBI raiding his house was too much. It was scary. Yeah? Okay. Well, this stuff's happening. I'll tell you this. Maybe you're one of the rare lefties who hate watches my videos. Maybe you know someone who is one of these liberal types. Tell them this. Ask them this. Where do you think this all goes? Simple question. Where do you think it all goes? Do you think that with the DOJ targeting the top Trump officials, that the Trump supporters, those notably like with the zealous attitudes of January 6th, do you think that they just sit back and say, gee, we were wrong. All of these people, they should be charged and arrested? Or do you think these people say no? I do not envision a near future, where the DOJ keeps targeting more and more people in unprecedented ways. And I do not imagine regular Americans just sitting back and being like, guess I'll die. Guess I'll get locked up. There are people who are still in jail today from January 6th who have not been charged with a crime. Don't know why. And there are people who have been, and I think that many people should have been. Absolutely. I think the people who knowingly trespass should be charged with trespassing, and many have been. There are people who climbed over barriers and walked through broken glass. Lock them up. And there are people who saw the doors opened by the police and the police fanned them in and took selfies with them. Those people did not break any laws. And that's why one guy was actually fully acquitted. Judge said so. There needs to be justice and there needs to be reason. Because if you keep doing this, and maybe that's their plan, maybe Joe Biden and the Democrats are hoping that by doing this, they will incite violence. And then they win in November because they need that. I'll tell you this, my friends, this is an act of desperation. Everybody needs to remain steadfast. Maybe chill and enjoy a nice meal with your family and remain calm. And then come November, vote. They want you to believe voting doesn't work because they need you to act a fool. Look, Trump won in 2016. He did it. He got the seat. He was put in the presidency. And they had to do everything to try and stop him. And they could only stop him so far. Now, Trump is far from perfect. 2020, he was president during the pandemic. He could have done a lot. He could have. The 9th and 10th Amendment stopped him from doing a certain amount of things. But he won. Voting does work. They don't own the system. They want you to believe that Trump can't win and that Republicans can't win so that you get violent so they can win. This is the game. It's why they censor channels like mine and suppress them. It's why they shadow ban people like me and you. Because what are we saying? We are saying, do not be violent. Go door to door. You have to organize. Democrats organize. They're good at it. You need to tell your friends and family, register to vote. There's a game they're playing on Facebook I'm seeing where they tag someone and say, you've been chosen to register to vote. Go to this website and register. Then post this same paragraph in someone else's Facebook. They're doing that because people who register to vote have a higher rate of voting than other people, becoming first-time voters. In 56 or so days, we will get the results. And if the Republicans can win in the Senate and in the House, we will start seeing some inquiries, hopefully. But this is the path forward. If Trump supporters get violent, and some people fear false flags, it's true. If Trump supporters get violent, they will then justify everything they did. And they'll say, see, look how dangerous the Maggie extremists, the Maggie Republicans, that's what Biden said, Maggie. The Maggie Republicans are. So what people need to do, with a smile on your face and a shake of the hand, register voters, knock on doors. And then come January 3rd, I believe, after the election, when the new Republican House is sworn in, hopefully we will see a wave of America First MAGA Republicans, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Joe Kent. Maybe we'll see Kari Lake in Arizona. Maybe then you'll get some heavy inquiries into what was happening in 2020 or whatever. Maybe then we will get an investigation into Joe Biden. Maybe then Joe Biden will be impeached for illicit business dealings that I believe are ongoing. This is why they're going after Trump supporters, to stop this effort. It's because they want Trump supporters to lose their minds. So I tell you, what would be the appropriate path forward? To those on the left and those liberal types on social media, they're saying arrest them, lock them up. Do you think that it will fare well for you if that's the case? Because the Democrats may be hoping that limited violence can get them votes and scare regular people. And that may be the case. But if they pursue beyond this, it won't be limited. It will be balls to the wall civil war. People don't get it. They believe it can't happen. Maybe. This is a big, big country. But I don't think people understand. I don't think they do. They imagine that there's going to be factions and secession because their world revolves around the first Civil War. Their history does. And that's the perspective they have. But you need to look at Russia or Spain. You need to look at other civil wars for how things happen. When you have the president go on TV and say the MAGA Republicans are an extremist threat to our democracy, this is historically a precursor to civil war. A precursor to one side storming the homes of the other side and killing them in their sleep. I don't want to see any of that. You know what I want to see? People chilling out, going to work, feeding their families, watching football. That's what I want to see. Calm, relaxed stability. We are not heading in that direction because of people like Joe Biden and his allies. It's getting dark, my friends. This is civil war. In the 1860s, in the first Civil War, Lincoln had, I believe it was around 32 or 36 members of the Maryland legislature arrested for having secession sentiments. They created a corridor from D.C. to Pennsylvania through Maryland, suspending habeas corpus and arresting anyone they deemed should be, without charge or trial. One guy was arrested, not charged, and then after the end of the war, he was released, and they just didn't say anything about it. Suspension of habeas corpus. Are we not seeing similar things now? When the DOJ under Merrick Garland is ignoring the violent threats, it's amazing. I've been swatted, I think, 12 or 13 times. Any response? Nope. And local law enforcement, I can't say too much because of the ongoing investigation at the local level. But my understanding is the feds are involved. And I believe we've even had, I think we've even had some feds here because of the bomb threats, because I'll just leave it. I can't reveal too much. Maybe I'm just wrong. And maybe they're keeping it hush hush to try and find. Okay, fine. You know, and if that's the case, then, well, I apologize, but I don't see it. Marjorie Taylor Greene got swatted several times. Steve Bannon got swatted several times. Nothing. But what do we see? Raiding Trump's home, going after Trump's lawyers. It's amazing. There are other issues that I've been dealing with that I can't speak too much about that involve the feds, and they wouldn't get involved. So you just have to wonder if you can be victimized over and over again and they won't do anything, but this is what they're after. Yeah, to me, it sounds like the weaponization of the DOJ and a precursor to civil war or a cold civil war. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.